3 disturbing true stories from morgue workers. Story 1. Late-night horror at the morgue. The clock ticked loudly in the stillness of the morgue, each chime echoing through the cold, sterile corridors as I worked the night shift alone. Shadows seemed to stretch and contort in the flickering light, making the already unsettling environment even more sinister. My hands trembled slightly as I wheeled in a body from the storage room, the chill of the air conditioning amplifying the eerie silence. The body was that of an elderly man, his eyes closed as though in eternal slumber, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me. As I prepared to examine him, a faint, almost imperceptible sound like a whisper seemed to emanate from the lifeless corpse. I dismissed it as my imagination, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end as the whisper grew louder, echoing through the empty room. The man's expression was unsettlingly serene, yet there was something about the way his mouth was slightly open that unsettled me profoundly. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered intermittently, casting an eerie glow over the still figure, heightening the oppressive atmosphere. I tried to focus on my task, but the whispering sound grew more distinct, forming what seemed like incoherent, mournful words. The body, despite its lifelessness, seemed to shift slightly, as though trying to communicate or escape from its cold confines. My pulse quickened as I checked the body for any signs of life, only to find the corpse as still as ever, the whispering now a clear, haunting melody. The coldness of the room became almost unbearable, as if the very air around me was suffused with a chill that penetrated deep into my bones. I tried to rationalize the sounds, attributing them to the building's age and settling noises, but the unsettling presence of the body made my reasoning falter. The lights flickered more aggressively, and for a moment, I felt as if I were trapped in a nightmarish realm where reality and fear converged. A sudden, unbidden thought crossed my mind: had this man met a violent end, and was his spirit lingering in the morgue? I fought to dismiss the thought, focusing instead on my work, but the unsettling whispers persisted, growing louder and more frantic. The whispers seemed to follow me as I moved around the room, their presence a constant, eerie reminder of the unknown. At times, I felt as if the body's gaze was fixed upon me, a chilling sensation that I could not shake no matter how hard I tried. The room's temperature dropped even further, making my breath visible as I exhaled, the cold air swirling around me in an unsettling dance. My attempts to concentrate on the task at hand were thwarted by the increasing intensity of the whispering, which seemed to crescendo with each passing minute. The walls of the morgue seemed to close in on me, the claustrophobic space amplifying every creak and groan of the building. I glanced at the body again, its stillness now feeling like a mocking commentary on my escalating fear and anxiety. As the whispering reached a frenzied pitch, I could no longer ignore the sense of being watched, my mind racing with dark, unsettling possibilities. The fluorescent lights flickered erratically, casting long, trembling shadows that seemed to dance across the walls with malevolent intent. My hands were slick with sweat as I fumbled with the body's paperwork, each moment feeling like an eternity in the oppressive darkness. The whispering became almost unbearable, a cacophony of mournful, fragmented sounds that seemed to seep into my very soul. The body's eyes remained closed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was silently screaming, its torment trapped within the confines of the morgue. The air grew heavy with a sense of dread, as though the very walls of the morgue were closing in on me, threatening to consume me whole. I fought to maintain my composure, but the oppressive atmosphere made it increasingly difficult to distinguish between reality and my mounting terror. Every sound in the morgue, from the creak of the floorboards to the hum of the lights, seemed to take on a menacing tone, amplifying my fear. My sense of time became distorted, each minute stretching into what felt like hours as I battled with the suffocating sense of dread. As I completed my tasks and prepared to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that the body's presence was somehow imprinted on me, a haunting memory. I walked out of the morgue with a lingering sense of dread, the whispering echoing in my mind long after I had left the chilling confines behind. Have you ever experienced something unsettling in a place where you felt completely alone? Leave a comment below. Story 2. The unsettling case of the unidentified body. It was just another routine day at the morgue when I encountered an unusual case that would haunt me for weeks. The body was unidentifiable, its features obscured by severe trauma and a layer of dirt, making the task of determining its identity both challenging and unsettling. As I examined the body, the sense of unease grew stronger, compounded by the gruesome nature of the injuries that marred the victim's form. The room was filled with the faint, metallic scent of blood and decay, the odor permeating every corner and making the atmosphere thick with tension. My hands shook as I prepared to document the body, the grisly sight of the injuries a constant reminder of the violence inflicted upon the victim. The victim's face was covered with a discolored shroud, and every time I adjusted it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was intruding on a deep personal tragedy. Each movement I made seemed to disturb the silence of the morgue, creating an almost palpable sense of foreboding in the otherwise sterile environment. The victim's clothes were tattered and stained, hinting at a life lived in desperation and pain, further deepening the sense of sorrow and dread. As I cataloged the details of the injuries, a chilling realization set in: the body had suffered a violent death, and the circumstances of the demise were shrouded in mystery. The morgue's fluorescent lights cast a harsh, unflattering glare on the body, emphasizing the grotesque details of the injuries and making the scene even more disturbing. I couldn't help but wonder about the story behind this unidentified victim. Who were they, and what had led to their untimely and brutal end? The air in the morgue felt suffocating, as though the very essence of the place was imbued with the sorrow and horror of the victim's final moments. The body seemed to exude an unsettling energy, a silent testimony to the violence it had endured, which made it difficult for me to focus on my work. The victim's eyes were closed, but I couldn't escape the feeling that they were staring at me, their silent plea for recognition and justice palpable. Each time I turned away, I felt as though I was leaving behind a piece of the victim's story, an unsettling burden that I could not shake. The morgue's silence was occasionally broken by the distant sounds of the city outside, a stark contrast to the grim reality within the cold, clinical walls. I found myself repeatedly drawn back to the victim's body, each glance revealing new, horrifying details that deepened my sense of unease. The sense of isolation was palpable, the morgue's sterile environment amplifying every creak and groan, making it feel as though the place was alive with dark energy. Despite my efforts to remain professional, the personal tragedy and violence of the victim's death weighed heavily on my conscience, making it hard to concentrate. As I completed the examination, I couldn't escape the haunting thought of the victim's final moments, which seemed to linger in the room long after I had finished my work. The victim's story remained a mystery, their identity and circumstances unknown, leaving me with an unsettling sense of unfinished business. The chilling silence of the morgue was occasionally broken by my own footsteps, each sound magnified by the oppressive atmosphere that hung heavily in the air. My efforts to maintain composure were increasingly challenged by the haunting nature of the case, the victim's plight a constant source of distress. I found myself questioning the morality of my work, wondering if I was truly doing justice to the victim's memory or merely a spectator to their suffering. The lingering sense of dread made it difficult to leave the morgue, as if some malevolent force was keeping me bound to the scene of the crime. Each night I returned to the morgue, the memory of the unidentified body weighed heavily on my mind, a dark shadow that refused to dissipate. I struggled to put the case out of my mind, but the victim's silent plea for recognition and justice remained a haunting echo in my thoughts. The unidentified body became a symbol of unresolved tragedy, a chilling reminder of the violence that lurked beneath the surface of our seemingly orderly world. Have you ever encountered a situation where you felt overwhelmed by the weight of a tragedy? Leave a comment below. Story 3. The terrifying discovery of a hidden body. The discovery of a hidden body was one of the most unsettling experiences I encountered during my time working in the morgue. It was an ordinary day until I was called to a storage unit where a newly discovered body had been found, concealed in a place that should have been empty. As I opened the unit, the smell of decay and rot was overpowering, making it difficult to breathe and causing my stomach to churn. The body was hidden beneath a pile of old, dusty items, the detritus of a forgotten storage unit now serving as a grotesque shroud. The sight of the body, half buried in the clutter, was both shocking and disturbing, its position suggesting a desperate attempt to conceal the victim. I could see that the body had been there for some time, the decay evident in the grotesque state of the remains and the surrounding filth. The surroundings were eerily silent, the muffled sounds of the city outside a stark contrast to the grim reality within the storage unit. As I carefully examined the body, I was struck by the sheer brutality of the death. It was clear that the victim had suffered immensely. The corpse was in a state of advanced decomposition, making it challenging to identify any distinguishing features or clues about the victim's identity. The hidden nature of the discovery added an extra layer of horror, as it became apparent that someone had gone to great lengths to hide the body from view. The environment within the storage unit was suffused with a sense of malevolence, the hidden body casting a dark shadow over the otherwise mundane setting. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was intruding on something deeply personal and disturbing, a macabre secret that had been concealed for far too long. Each movement I made in the cramped space seemed to disturb the air, making the already oppressive atmosphere feel even more stifling. The sight of the body, combined with the sense of concealment and secrecy, created a profound sense of unease that lingered long after the examination was complete. The decaying remains seemed to whisper of a violent and tragic end, their silent testimony a grim reminder of the darkness that can exist in the world. I struggled to maintain my composure as I documented the details, the horrific nature of the discovery making it difficult to stay focused and objective. The sense of isolation in the storage unit was palpable, as if the hidden body had created an eerie pocket of dread that was suffocating in its intensity. The body's concealed nature suggested a deliberate effort to hide evidence, raising unsettling questions about the circumstances surrounding the death. As I left the storage unit, the oppressive atmosphere seemed to cling to me, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can be hidden in plain sight. The storage unit, once an innocuous space, had been transformed into a nightmarish scene of concealment and death, forever imprinted on my psyche. The discovery of the hidden body became a disturbing symbol of the lengths to which people can go to conceal their darkest secrets. I grappled with the emotional weight of the experience, the hidden body a haunting presence that made it difficult to find solace or closure. The experience left me with an enduring sense of dread, a chilling awareness of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. Have you ever stumbled upon something that revealed a hidden darkness in an otherwise ordinary setting? Leave a comment below.